Hi, this is Kyle Higgins, and you're listening to the Geekcast Radio Network.
Hey, this is Thom Zahler, creator of Warning Label and Long Distance, and you've just jumped inside the pull bag.
You've just jumped inside the pull bag. Join TFG1Mike and the rest of the comic crew here at the GCRN as they make their great escape into comics. From DC, Marvel, and Image to IDW, Boom Studios, and Zenescope, we have everything right here. We cover things like Transformers, He-Man, superheroes, TMNT, and Radiant Black. Yeah, we have all that and so much more. It's all inside the pull bag here on the Geekcast Radio Network. So, without further ado, it's time to talk about the comics we're reading right now, here inside the pull bag.
Hello and welcome to the pull bag. This is episode 495. Ladies and gentlemen, we are 5 episodes away from that 500th episode. It will be my first, it'll be my first produced podcast that has reached over or just up to 500 episodes. So we are on our way. I am, of course, TFG1Mike. I don't know if I already said that or not. And continuing on with the Thom Zahler talk, I brought along with me, as per usual, Jesse Jackson. Hello, sir.
Hello, sir. 500. Not too shabby. We're getting there, right?
Yeah. Not any. Damn it! I was gonna do you a favor and make a Bruce joke, but all as I can think of is Any Highway You Want It. But that is not the right. That's not the right song.
Yeah, well, we're going to have a little faith and think that there's magic in the night. We definitely know there are curses in the night. So, tonight we are talking Warning Label.
Yes, this was Thom Zahler's next comic after Long Distance. This was exclusively on WebToon for a while, and then he did a Kickstarter and people were able to get a physical copy of it, and that was awesome. But yeah, going from Long Distance to this, WebToon, I guess, had suggested... Because the funny thing is about the WebToon version of... And I'm sure it's... I don't know. You can tell me if it's in the physical copy or not. He has notes at the bottom of each chapter, like thanking everybody or announcing where he's going to be. Because this was... What was this? 2017? 2019?
Yeah.
This is a while ago. So, you know... And I love that, and I love that, you know, he's asking the people who are commenting on the on the comic, send me questions and I'll answer them. And he answers them, and one of the answers was that WebToon had suggested to him the limited color palette like Long Distance, and it really works.
Yeah, it really does. To give you a little background, WebToon really wanted, they are in the business of producing new original material in the form of web comics. And he had made a couple of pitches to them. And the one they liked is Warning Label. And Warning Label has a very unique premise. Danielle, who is our heroine, was cursed by an ex-boyfriend, and now then anytime someone asks her out, they get a warning label showing all the reasons why they should not date her.
Right.
And that is how, there is no big build-up. That happens like within the first couple of pages of the book, and in fact they kind of make a fun of it, that when our hero is going to is kind of talking to her, he gets a free shot And they're like, what's that for? And she says, you're going to need it in a minute. And sure enough, when Jeff starts to talk, boom, a warning label shows up. So our hero is Jeff, our heroine is Danielle, and unlike Love and Capes, where our heroes are already a couple, and unlike Long Distance, where we kind of see the romance, Thom, staying in his wheelhouse of romantic comics, does this unique perspective of, well, can they get together? And the twist is, and you discover this very early on, is that the items on the warning label can be removed if certain things happen.
Yep.
Yes. So,
yeah, and this is it's so good. And I'm not just saying that because I love Thom and I love the man's work and everything else, but like going from Long Distance to this, like you already said, it's very much a different romance kind, romantic comedy comic kind of thing. And it's one of those things where, okay, this works. And, it's set in Austin, Texas, which apparently the movie director lives up in Dallas somewhere. So we'll get to that.
Yeah.
But setting it in Austin, it's a warmer palette. So there's red, yellow, and some brown and everything else. And, again, originally, reading through some of the questions, Thom originally wanted to set it in Seattle, and I'm reading this and I'm looking at I'm like, there's no way this sure, you could do a story in Seattle eventually, that's fine, but not with these characters. They're very fiery.
Yeah, and one of the things is, like all creative people, Thom likes to make his life harder. He likes to push himself creatively. And so when WebToons was talking about, what we could do, we talked about Long Distance. There was the green and brown palette. So if you look at what a warning label looks like, there's a lot of reds, there's a lot of yellows. And so he decided that it would work very well, Austin, set in Austin, because there is Alamo Drafthouse, which is one of the greatest, movie chains in the Southwest. And then so he had his hero working at that movie thing, and then Danielle is a game designer. So it works out really well. And then, and Thom loves drawing a redhead. So that worked out really perfect.
Yes. And it's just one of those things where it's fun and it's funny all at the same time, but there is also drama. So so we get through the first couple of chapters and, Jeff has to get over the fact that there are curses because he doesn't believe there are. Obviously, there are.
Yeah. One of the ongoing bits in the series is that almost everyone Jeff runs into knows there's curses. In fact, one of the things is they go to a food truck and they go, oh, and you get the 10% curse discount, which, by the way, he explained in the webcomic, he made a mistake in the math, and in the notes it went crazy how 10% off shouldn't have been the number he gave. That was one of the most controversial. The other is Danielle and Jeff both like pineapple on their pizzas, and that was one of the more controversial scenes in the movie, in the book. So, Danielle's, and I think this is interesting, her warning label includes emotionally distanced, self-opinionated, casually changes plans, puts job over relationship, not interested in spending time with your friends, hates children, fear of commitment. Mm-hmm. And in the series, when he's reading this, Jeff is reading it to us, she has a reason for every one.
Mm-hmm.
Like casually changes planes. Hey, life changes. Get over it. She owns every one of her issues.
Yeah, this is not her, this is not, he asks her out, the warning label shows up and he runs off. This is, oh, that's interesting. Let me, what is going on here? I need to know about this kind of thing. And he's there to figure it out.
Yeah. And so it's a very interesting love story. And I like the idea that, one of the beautiful things of Love and Capes is when Thom originally thought he was going to put out Love and Capes, he assumed it would be a webcomic. And so every fourth panel, he had a joke. 1, 2, 3, beat. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, beat.
Yeah.
And so he was used to drawing this. And so the WebToons is they put out a chapter once a week.
Yep.
And so he had to, one of the challenges he talks about in the introduction is because this was, you write the chapter and publish it, unlike in a book where you can go, oh, I've written myself in a corner, let me go back and rechange like what happened in chapter 3 so that I can get out of that corner. There is no option in this. So he had to do more outlining than he normally does.
Yeah, and that, putting that work in, and not saying the man isn't going to put the work in, but putting that extra work in and using this format, like I said, Webtoon is very mobile friendly. It's not very desktop friendly, and that's okay. That's fine. That's the way it is. That's the way it's supposed to be. And I loved reading it on my phone. But looking at this and just like, wow, like seeing it on my desktop is like, oh, this is very, very cool. And, by the end of chapter 3, we find out that the list can be changed.
Yes.
So,
and what was interesting is the way Webtoon says is whenever they're putting out a new series, they put out 3 chapters at one time to kind of get people interested. So that's why he think of that as the pre-credits tease that you would write and then going forward. So, yeah. So are there, besides the main 2 characters, are there other characters that you enjoyed in the book that you liked seeing?
I wasn't too... I kind of feel like Danielle in this, but I wasn't too thrilled with Jeff's set of friends. They're okay. They're fine characters, whatever.
Yeah.
I love the twins. I love the fact that Thom put, the twins have hello, I've been podcasting for 14 years, So the fact that the twins have a podcast, I love the fact that Danielle works at a game company. Look, these are essentially 2 geeks. He works at a movie theater and she works at at a game company. And other characters... It's mainly about them. I mean, yes, there are the twins. There's also Trip and Coral. And Coral, oh man, I remember, because the thing is, when I first read this back when it was originally published, I would be one of those people that would want to comment on each chapter to say, hey Thom, I liked this, or oh wow, this happened. But man, the Webtoon community is, whew. You go back and read those comment threads on each of these 39 chapters. We'll talk about chapter 40 later, but each of the 40 chapters, yikes! Nobody liked Danielle in the beginning. Everybody thought, "Oh, she's being too this." I'm like, "Oh my God, people, relax. Let it because this is me coming from where I've already been, knowing Thom from long distance, and Thom has always been the romantic optimist. I mean, that's just the way he is, and that's fine, and that's the way he writes, and that's great. I like the skepticism of Coral. I like that Coral is overprotective, but she's a little too overprotective. She gets I don't want to say gets better, but she calms down and she realizes that, okay, this is the thing.
Yeah, and one of the things that, Michael, that works in this book is that she's a fully filled out character. Coral is coming from the perspective of you shouldn't have to change for a man.
Yeah.
And if you look at it from that perspective, that's a truly legitimate thought to have. But, it goes back to the people that complain about the end of Grease, right? That Sandy changed to get, Danny. But I always go, yeah, but Danny became a jock to try to get her. And no one notices that. So there is a lot of interesting character dynamics in it. And one of the things that I especially liked is they set up very early that it is not easy to take something off the warning label. It isn't just a matter of, okay, I'm going to do this and I'm checking off the list. The curse somehow knows if you're having a legitimate change of heart or not. So very cool.
Yeah, that is very cool. And I mean, honestly, so she has what? 8 items on her list? Okay, so 7 or 8 items, if each chapter was to figure out, if it was solely based on figuring out how to quote unquote fix her and get rid of the label, then Thom would only be writing 7 or 8 chapters and, so creating this, I don't want to say long distance, but creating this distance between each thing that comes off the list and creating a story around that, and how can, they're not always trying, every morning he isn't, waking up and calling her saying, hey, how can we fix number this or number no, it isn't about that. It's about that. Again, Thom is Mr. Relationship Comic. That's who he is. And how he writes this and how this story progresses is so good because it explores both of their characters. It explores both of their, Jeff was on the first or second date. He even writes his own warning label, which is interesting.
Yeah. One of the really sweet moments early in the series is Jeff jots down, his own warning label to say, okay, since you're forced to be so open and share what your faults are, let me share what my faults are. And that ends up playing a part in the ongoing story. They actually both help each other. And one of the things that is on Jeff's warning label is let things fester. And there is a scene, and I'm wanting everyone to read this, so we're kind of a spoiler-ish, but kind of leaving some beats alone, where something happens, and it's very clear that this is bothering Jeff, and if this was a film, you would get a close up, and Thom draws it where you're looking at Jeff's face, and he lets it go when he shouldn't have.
Yeah,
he should have shared, because one of the things in a relationship, and we talked about last episode, you losing, your partner. But when you were in that relationship, right, that open communication and sharing when things are bothering you, and if it's a truly healthy relationship, they go, well, I didn't mean for that to cause that reaction to you. Now that I know it does, let's talk about how to do that, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's the thing. Like I said last time, I was in a place from January to August of 2017 where I was on a search. I wanted to find the one. I had gone through some weird online bullshit and whatever else and all of that. And, like I said last time, I wanted it to, like, my OkCupid profile, when I had it up, literally I spent about 2 days filling out, I filled out over 500 questions because I wanted it to be as precise and as specific as possible as far as, like, look, this is me, this is who I am. You know what I mean? Like, I wasn't trying to push myself on anyone, but I wanted my profile to show, like, I wasn't, I'm Mike and I'm this and I'm that and blah, blah, blah. And you always hear about these, the dating profiles. And I looked at his or her picture and, okay. And then like 3 months later, one of the persons didn't know something about the other person, and oh my God.
Yeah.
So when Karen and I first started talking on August 6th of 2017, I was like, look, let's just be open and honest the whole way. From the beginning, this is who I am. This is what I'm about. This is what has happened to me. This is how I deal with life. And for 4.5 years, we went through that, and we went through whatever. Yes, there were troubles and whatever, but there was never a point where either one of us were like, okay, this is over, this is done, whatever. Because we moved so fast, quite literally. And I said this last week, between meeting online August 6th and talking from August to September, meeting in person in September, by October, I was living with her in Chicago of 2017. So, it was one of those things where we were always, like, I always wanted to have my stuff out there, and I wanted her to do the same, and she did for the most part. I mean, there were some stuff, there's always some stuff, whatever, but it's like we had some fights, but we had more fun times than we had fights. And again, we were only together for 4.5 years, and then she unexpectedly passed away as of this recording. Oh God. When this is published in September or October of 2022, it'll be just under a year since she passed. And it sucks because it's one of those things that this is not what we planned. This is not how it was supposed to happen. This is not how, I'm not supposed to be in Indiana by myself in a brand new apartment in a brand new city trying to figure life out after she's gone. We're supposed to be together. We're supposed to be out in the Pacific Northwest, all this stuff and everything else. And it's like, holy hell, having to recover from, and there is no real recovery. And everyone says, time healed. And no, thank God. I would have literally blown up online. I would have done a Facebook Live. Thank God nobody has already said, no, time heals all wounds. Well, it does. But it hadn't even, like, literally, dude, it hasn't even been a year yet, and it feels like it's been 10 years. Like, it feels like she is so far gone for, like I said, 4.5 years. We were planning the next 50 years of our lives. We didn't plan it out, but the plan was to be together for the rest of our lives. And
Yeah.
so with Jeff and Danielle and all of this and everything else, and I see her side, I see his side of it. I just finished my second reread of this. So in total, since it was originally published, I've read this comic 3 times since it was originally published. Again, I had read it a couple months ago, because by the time people hear this, it'll be a couple months. But originally, I reread it because I needed to. I don't know. I needed to take my mind off of stuff, or I needed to do whatever. And I'm like, oh, okay, let me go through Warning Label again. And I was like, oh, hey Jesse, you wanna do these episodes? And so
Yeah.
And
Sure.
for me, because my brain isn't what it used to be, and whatever else, and
Yeah.
I had to reread it. I reread it, about a month or so ago, and then I had to reread it just before we did the recording, so I could have it fresh in my mind. And
Sure.
And what I love about Jeff and Danielle is, as the comic goes forward, I don't want to say she calms down, but one of his warnings is he lets things fester, but she kind of lets herself go and get caught up in the moment for a while at times.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think one of the most creative things, I did not have a problem with, but some people had a problem with the way that on Big Bang Theory that Penny and Leonard ended up having a child, and she was happy about it. And a lot of people were unhappy about that because she had said from the beginning she didn't want children. And I, stand by the point that I think it's perfectly reasonable, and if that's the story they want to tell, that when she found out she was pregnant, she changed her mind, right?
Yeah.
Thom does not all of a sudden make Danielle love children and, let's adopt, a basketball team. The way they cover that gives her an idea that it doesn't change her core being, but it changes her perspective. And that's really cool. I think that's a really good, and, like all love stories, they have their rough spots, and it wouldn't be a true romance unless they broke up for some reason. And, but spoilers, we do get our version, get a happy ending. And so if you're wanting something about that, I think it's a very well-written story. It still is available on Thom's website if you want a copy, but it is absolutely free to watch on, WebToons. And you can go, there is the complete series. I agree with Mike. It is very easy to read from a phone or a tablet. And it is a little more difficult on a desktop, but it is doable. You just have to do some scrolling, but it's good. I like it a lot, and I would love to hear people, their feelings on it. Any other thoughts about the characters? And then I wanted to talk a little bit about something that unexpectedly came up from Thom doing this series.
As far as the characters go, well, like I said, Jeff and Danielle, they are... So, the whole children thing, like you mentioned...
Yeah.
I've said this before. I believe I've said this before on podcasts, because of... So, I knew I was born with cerebral palsy.
Right.
I knew I was born with optic atrophy, which is nerve damage in the eyes. So I knew I was born legally blind. what I didn't know was about the actual brain damage that I was born with. When I was in the womb, my corpus callosum, which is the thing that separates the left and right hemispheres of the brain, just never formed, never nothing, never whatever. So in 2019, I had to have, I think I mentioned this last week, and I'm sorry if I'm repeating myself, folks, but it's part of telling this story here that I'm going to get to. So I had to have brain surgery in 2019 to relieve excess fluid off of my brain. The doctors said that basically if I didn't have the surgery, my brain was about 2.5 inches from popping out of my skull. So I might not be here now if I didn't have, like, you know what I mean? Like, you always think about the things that, the road less traveled by and everything else, whatever else. If I didn't have this brain surgery back then, I could be the one that's dead now, and then Karen would have to go through whatever things, and if she ended up the way things actually happened, then oh my God, we're both dead, and it is what it is. You know what I mean? But, so I went through that, and I went through all that, and I'm saying all of this to say that I did not want to pass any of the shit that I have on.
Right.
Like, I didn't want to burden children with whatever I might have, because as we all know, most of the time that if the mother has whatever, it usually gets passed on. Sometimes if the father has whatever, it usually gets passed on, kind of thing. And I never, in my entire life, even before I met Karen, I never, ever want, and I still, at this point, I'm 42. I'm too old for kids. And I like little young kids. Oh, no. I am very much a Danielle person, because it's like, kids, go, like, as soon as I hear kids screaming, I'm like, oh God, put the headphones on, crank the nickel back, and just let it go. But what I'm saying all of this to say is that I love how each of these characters, the main two characters, approach the situation and the issue. Yes, she hates children. However, as you see the comic progress, you see her progress. Same thing with him. He lets things fester, and he lets things happen, and he lets whatever. Well, eventually, whatever. And with the supporting cast, I mean, it's a good supporting cast. You have Coral, you have his sister and her husband and her his niece, Rachel, and all that. And you have the twins, and you have Trip and everybody. And, it's a fun cast of characters, because, and even we don't see the movie theater manager too much, but I mean, we see several scenes with him. But I mean, again, the fact that you have, Jeff is the assistant manager, and the one thing I want to know, and I know this is silly and stupid, and it's not going to happen now, but so Jeff is the assistant manager, and then there's, Mr. whoever above him, who's the manager. Where are the other, like, is Jeff the only employee? Because we only ever really see the manager and Jeff there until, like, opening night of the whatever.
Right. That was not the, I guess, a big storyline. Actually, yes, and he also was worried about, right, that's Thom has to draw them all. So, yeah.
Oh, yeah. No. That's just a little, like, no. I mean,
no, I'm laughing at you.
Yeah.
I get that. Yeah.
So, it's like, wait a second. Go ahead.
So one of the things that came up, which was kind of funny, is that Danielle works at a gaming company, and she comes up with the idea of a game, and it is a card game, and you basically compete against your friends to create the ultimate comic convention. There are guest cards, there's exhibit cards, there's all kinds of different cards, and you have to build a deck so that you could have the most successful convention. And she pitches that to the twins, which you mentioned are the owners of the game company, and they love it, and they decide that they're going to produce it. And when Thom started doing a Kickstarter, a couple of friends of his who actually are good at designing games said, it wouldn't be too hard to actually do this. And so one of the things that came from this is you can purchase the Long Con card game. It is they're about tarot-sized cards. It's a 2 to 4 person game. Takes about 45 minutes to play, and just like in the book, Thom had different friends of his do the art on the comic, on the cards. So all the art isn't just drawn by Thom. There are like Laura Innes. They had Andy Price draw it, Luke Dobb. So friends of Thom's did the art, so the comics, and so you get to play this card game. I ended up buying a copy when I did as supported the Kickstarter, but I haven't found someone to play it with me yet. But it looks like a lot of fun.
Are you kidding me?
Yeah.
Like, seriously? You found nobody to play it with you? Wow.
I know. So
that's crazy.
I have a almost prestige copy. The only thing that's gone through is I've looked through all the cards. So I really I need to find someone in the DFW area that will play this with me. So it would be fun.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, that's something you would probably bring to a convention or something.
Yes.
Kind of thing. And yeah, I mean, it is, it's great. It's what I was hoping for. Yes, the Long Con is amazing that is an actual physical game. And what I was hoping for eventually is that they would actually make, because, I said to Karen, we kind of got more into long distance than Warning Label. We didn't ever make the time to get into Warning Label. But I told her about it, and I told her about the premise, and I told her about the story and how, I kind of just basically spoiled it for her. But, I said, we should make – we never ended up making Warning Labels of each other. But, I want the Warning Label – like, that's the next thing. Like, come on, get the Warning Label game out. Let's go. Like, that's what I was hoping would happen, was that again, great that you have the Long Con game, and that's amazing. But give us the Warning Label game. Come on, Thom.
Well, and he did talk about that in the trade paperback, the collection. Is he has no idea how that game would work. Now, he did talk about that one of the things he thought about doing is when he does a convention to sell blank warning labels, and then he would pencil in what you asked them to do, and sign that and sell that on his booth. He decided that it may not have worked well, because some people may say, oh, yeah, look, I want to do a warning label on my girlfriend, so let's put it here. And then she, like, what? That's what you think? So he decided perhaps maybe not the best thing. So, yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. But, it is what it is, and the comic is great. I mean, there's absolutely nothing wrong with the comic. And
yeah, it was wonderful. Yeah. Any final thoughts about it before I hope everyone checks it out. It is often when we do something we're promoting, you need to have access to a channel, but this is, if you have the internet, it is go to WebToons, look for Warning Label or look for Thom Zahler, and you will be able to see he also has he has a couple other series on there. He does Cupid Arrows, which we will get to sooner or later in our discussion.
Yep.
But yeah, definitely check out Warning Label, and I will tweet out a link to this from my Twitter.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, this is just super fun. And I love, so when Thom published chapter 39, he did, to me, this is an old, like, Tom and Jerry cartoon thing. He did the fin. So it's like FIN, and like, this is the finale. This is the, So, I figured, okay, that's it. And we have that chapter. And then, like, I don't know if it was the next week or the week after, he comes in with or it was whenever Cupid's Arrows was going to be announced. Mm-hmm. And he comes up with, here I am. And, here's a bonus episode. And he's talking about the new series, and he's talking about where he's, and what I love about chapter 40 is, I'll be at Denver Comic-Con. I'll be like literally, it's all red, but it's literally him doing a long distance jumps over the various. I love that. And then he's like, "Oh, what's the other thing that I need some help, boss?" And then like having that, like this is what I love about him is he will throw himself in and have himself actually like again. These, along with every other character he's created, Jeff and Danielle, Carter and Lee, Mark and Abby, and all of that, would love, like, all of these characters are real world people, because he will, the funny thing is, reading through all these chapters, you see, like I said, Tom's like, oh, this week, next week, whatever. And then when holidays come around, oh, it's Thanksgiving. The next week, oh, I'm so full from Thanksgiving. And it's just like him with a giant stomach at the bottom of the. And I just love that he is that person that will make you feel like these aren't just comic characters.
Yeah.
These are, real people that could be in the real world.
Hey, welcome to the Last Comic Shop Podcast, a comic book podcast that actually talks about comics.
Yep, each week we open the shop up and read and discuss a comic.
Sometimes we pair that up with comic book movies or TV shows.
Or not. Lots of times it's just comic books and sound effects.
Oh, yes, definitely lots of sound effects. So tune in on all the major podcasting platforms for the Last Comic Shop Podcast, or check out our library of evergreen shows at www.lastcomicshoppodcast.com.
Like science fiction? Of course you do, or you wouldn't be listening to the Geekcast Radio Network. Well, the Mark 42's Universe podcast is an award-winning sci-fi radio show that's been around for over 10 years. We cover everything from Doctor Who to the MCU to pop culture and everything in between. A new show drops on Tuesday mornings on the GCRN website and all of the major podcast platforms. So listen to the Mark 42's Universe podcast from the universe and beyond.
It's one of those things that when chapter 40 ends and at the end he's like, oh, I missed those two. But he's right. I've got a new strip coming out and it's not going to draw itself.
Yeah.
I just really dig it. Again, the color palette, everything about it is just so fun. And same thing with everything else we've already talked about. It's just so fun. And he approaches, like, he obviously has a TV predilection, which we all do, because he mentions Maris and Frasier and how, I never, out of all the times I've read this, Anne was always in Jeff's past. I never, I'm not saying Jeff is Niles, but I never wanted to meet Anne. I am glad that Anne was just this off-screen character. And, whatever. And it's just like, you need to pick me up. You need a comic that isn't just, and don't get me wrong, we all love the superhero stuff around here. We love all the other stuff we do. But you need a comic that is so different and, like, literally, between Long Distance and this, it's opened my eyes to various things in my life and when Karen was alive, in our life together and everything else and whatever else. And it's just, like, nobody else can do this.
Yeah.
Nobody else can do this like Thom does it. And I was kind of skeptical on Cupid's Arrows. I started reading it when it first came out. I need to go back to it because that's a series that I've never actually like fully read because I didn't have the time to dedicate to it. But now obviously I have all the time in the world. So yeah, I mean, warning label, folks, go check it out. Like Jesse already said, it's the link to WebToons will be in there. The link to Thom's website will be in the show notes. And all that, and it's super fun.
Yeah, absolutely. Well said. So, if someone wants to reach me, they can find me at Jesse Jackson DFW on Twitter. You can hear me talk Babylon 5 on my Last Best Hope for Conversation, JKA Media podcast. You can hear me talk music on Set Lustig Bruce, where I, in the month of we would just finished when this will come out. I did a month of episodes in August about the musician John Hyatt. So if you want to talk to me about music and your favorite musicians, it doesn't have to be Bruce. Reach out to me and I would love to have you join me. And how about yourself, sir? Where can they find you?
Oh, God. John Hyatt. Slow turning and oh god, I gotta listen to that episode or that set of episodes because there are two songs from him that I absolutely love. Slow Turning, which was featured in the 2000. Oh my god, the Rookie is 20 years old. Holy crap! 2002, Dennis Quaid. Who else is in that? I don't remember. Anyway. Slow Turning, and what's the other one? Little Faith in You, or whatever it is. That's between those two songs, man, it's like, oh god, he is such a great. And I know he has more than that, but again, it's one of those things that you hear a couple of songs from somebody, but those are the only songs you know from them because we come from, and we're getting into a whole music thing. There is a comic series somewhere. I think it's called Phonograph. Somebody else turned me on to it. I'll have to check it out. But anyway, you can find me on Twitter. You can find the show on Twitter. I am at TFG1Mike, at The Pullbag, or at Geekcast Radio for the network stuff. Next time, I have a Comic Reading Origins episode where I get the origins of Dave McElvenney. Dave is a new / good friend, and he, so how I know Dave is my buddy Michael Bailey, who does a bunch of podcasts. Dave always writes in emails to him, so I always hear Michael reading Dave's emails, so I kind of have like this vision of Dave in my head, and I'm like, oh, Dave, would you like to be on the Pullbag to talk comics? He's like literally one of the biggest Superman fans and everything else and all this and all that. So Dave is coming up next. After that, I've got a couple open spots, and then 497 is open and 498 is open. So anyone listening to the sound of my voice, if you want to talk comics, let me know. You, like I already said, you can reach me on Twitter. We're on Facebook, all that good stuff. And then 499, my friend Bethany Kessler, when we were recording one of the episodes that I record, I think it was her. Yeah, it's her Origins episode. She had mentioned that she has a lot of unpopular comic opinions, and I needed a roadmap. I knew I wasn't going to get there immediately, but I needed a roadmap. I needed to put a stop sign at a certain point, and I'm like, okay. At the end of that episode, when I recorded with Bethany, I'm like, okay. I know what episode 499 is going to be. Her episode is 428. So it's like almost 60 episodes beforehand. But I'm like, okay, Bethany Kessler's unpopular comic opinions.
Nice.
I really want to call the episode Bethany Forever because she likes Batman and all that and everything else. But anyway, yeah. So that's how you can reach us, folks. Listen to the show, listen to us on Spotify and all your other podcatching clients that you choose to use and all that good stuff. I don't know what's coming up. I know what's coming up next, but after episode 500, I'm not sure. I'm in the middle of reevaluating, and as people will have noticed, between episode 486 and 487, there was a little bit of a break this year because Steve Megatron was off doing some other stuff, and we had Beast Wars stuff to talk about, so I didn't want to, not have him on those. So yeah, I'm going to be doing a little bit. Pullbag is going to be a little different close to the end of the 2022, because normally my thing is I want to, in any podcast that I do, I start January 1st, and my cutoff, like my slowdown period, is kind of like Halloween. So once Halloween hits, because I realize, it's holidays and people are going to be around, but they're not going to be around kind of thing. And you want to, whatever, you want to slow down, whatever. So we have a few of this year might be a little different. I might be slowing down a little earlier than I thought, but it is what it is. And like I said, if I need to refigure out the plan and need to refigure out what we're doing for the pullbag for the end of the year and next year, that's what has to be done. So make your great escape into comics, and we will catch you next time here inside the Pullbag.
You've just heard the latest episode of The Pullbag, the GCRN's first comic review and discussion podcast. There are several ways to get in touch with us and leave feedback for the show. You can visit the website, geekcastradio.com, where you can comment on the episode and all of our different podcasts. You can rate and leave a review for the show on iTunes. Be sure to leave us feedback. Become a fan of us on Facebook, facebook.com/thepullbag. Send us an email, feedback at geekcastradio.com. Follow us on Twitter at thepullbag and at geekcastradio. So until next time, make your great escape into comics and unleash the geek in you.
You actually care about them geeks. They're human beings. Yeah, well, they're going to have to make do without their big blue babysitter from now on. See, someone's paid me a heap of cash for your carcass, and the main man always delivers.